Hey friends, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to my channel, Dark Tales and Wild Nights. Today, I'm excited to share another captivating story with you. Tonight, I'll gently retell the famous short story titled The Bet, written by the famous Russian short story writer Anton Chekhov. So, find a comfortable position and allow your body to relax and let this quiet story slowly guide you into sleep. If you enjoy stories like these, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future stories. So let's begin the story. The night outside was very still, like the kind of still that only comes in the deep hours when most of the world has already let go of the day and drifted somewhere quieter. The banker sat alone in his study. A single lamp burned on the desk beside him. Its light was warm and low. It touched the edges of things gently, the spine of a book, the rim of a glass, the pale skin of his hands, resting on the desk, doing nothing, just resting. He was an old man now, not frail, but worn in the way that years wear a person, slowly, without asking permission. His hair had gone gray. His face had settled into lines. It was the type of lines that come, not from illness, but from thinking too much, for too long, for too many years. He sat in his chair, and he looked at the wall, and the wall looked back at him, and neither of them said anything. Outside, the wind moved softly through the garden, rustling the leaves of the trees. It sounds like whispered conversation, like something being said, just out of reach. He could hear it through the glass, that soft, dark rustling, and it made the room feel quieter somehow, more enclosed, more private. He poured himself a small glass of something, and held it in both hands, but did not drink. He was thinking. He had been thinking all evening about something that happened a long time ago, something he had almost forgotten, or perhaps had tried to forget, and had not quite succeeded. 15 years. The number sat in his chest, like a stone. It was not painful, it was just heavy. He set the glass down, and leaned back in his chair, and let the memory come, the way you let water rise when there is nowhere left to hold it. It had begun at a party, one of those large, loud parties that he used to give in the years when he was rich and generous, and full of the particular confidence that money sometimes gives a man. The rooms had been full of people, candles burning everywhere, the sound of voices and laughter, the clink of glasses, the warmth of bodies close together. He had been younger then, much younger. Quick with opinions, he was a man who enjoyed a good argument, who felt most alive when he was defending a position, even a position he was not entirely sure of. That evening, the conversation had turned, as conversations at those parties sometimes did, to questions of justice, of punishment, of what society owed its criminals and what its criminals owed it back. Someone had mentioned capital punishment, the practice of ending a life as a legal consequence. Several of the guests had opinions about it, strong ones, voiced loudly over the noise of the room. The banker had an opinion too. He always had an opinion. He said that capital punishment was more humane than life imprisonment. He said this with the certainty of a man who has not thought about it very deeply, but who is very confident in the moment. A young lawyer heard him say this. The lawyer was sitting nearby, not far from the fire. He was young, perhaps 25, with clear eyes and a composed expression. He was a man who listens more than he speaks, and who, when he does speak, says something worth hearing. The lawyer said, quietly but clearly, that he disagreed. He said that life, any life, even one lived in a single room, was better than no life at all. He said that to live, even in confinement, was still to exist, to breathe, to think, to feel the movement of time. And that was worth something, worth more, perhaps, than people gave it credit for. The banker felt the challenge in this, and he liked it. He leaned forward, and the conversation sharpened between them, the way a blade sharpens against a stone. The other guests quieted a little, sensing something interesting developing. The banker said that 15 years in a single room with no freedom, no company, no world, would destroy a person. It would be a slow kind of death, worse than a quick one. The lawyer said that he did not believe that. He said that the mind was a world in itself, that books were windows, that a man who was free inside his own thoughts was not entirely a prisoner. The banker said, "I would wager 2 million rubles that you could not last 5 years in solitary confinement." The lawyer looked at him calmly and said, "I will take that bet, and I will do not just 5 years, but 15. The room went very quiet. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else refilled a glass. The banker looked at the young man, and for a moment he almost took it back. But he did not, because he was a man who did not take things back, and because some part of him wanted to see what would happen. So the bet was made. 2 million rubles against 15 years of voluntary imprisonment. The lawyer would live in a separate building, in the garden of the banker's estate. He could have books, music, wine, whatever he wished to read or study, but he could not leave, could not see another human face, could not receive visitors, could not hear a living voice for 15 years. He could write notes, and they would be passed to him through a small window, but that was all. That was the agreement. They shook hands, and the party continued around them, and the candles burned and the laughter returned, and most of the guests forgot about it. By the time they went home, the lawyer moved into the small lodge the following autumn. It was a quiet building, set apart from the main house, surrounded by old trees, whose branches moved slowly in the evening wind. The windows were small, and the rooms inside were modest, but not uncomfortable. There was a bed, a table, a chair by the window, a small fireplace that kept the cold out, just enough. The first year, the lawyer seemed restless. His notes, passed through the little window, mentioned loneliness. He asked for novels, light ones, stories with movement and color in them, adventure stories, stories about people going places, doing things, being alive in the world. He played a small piano that had been provided. The banker could sometimes hear it, faintly, drifting across the garden on quiet evenings, a soft, wandering melody, going nowhere in particular, just moving the way thoughts move when they have nothing else to do. In the second year, the music stopped. The lawyer asked for books of a different kind, classical literature, ancient texts, languages he did not yet know. He was teaching himself, apparently, filling the hours with study, with the patient work of learning. The notes became less frequent, and when they came, they were shorter, more considered, as if each word had been weighed before being written. The banker read them with a feeling he could not quite name, something between respect and unease. In the third and fourth years, the lawyer turned to theology, to philosophy, to the history of religions. He asked for texts from many traditions. He read them slowly, carefully, going back and forth between them, as if looking for something, some thread, some common thing that ran through all of them. Beneath the different words and names, the lodge was quiet. The garden around it was quiet. The banker sometimes stood at his own window and looked across at the small building, at its dim light, at the dark shape of it against the evening sky, and thought about the young man inside, and felt something that was not quite guilt, but was not quite innocent either. The fifth year came, and the music returned, but different now, slower, more deliberate, as if the person playing had changed, as if something had settled in him, something that had been restless before and was restless no longer. The years moved on, as years do, without announcing themselves, without asking if you are ready. They simply moved, carrying everything with them. And setting it down slightly changed. On the other side, 6 years, 7, 8. The lawyer read everything: science, mathematics, poetry, medicine, art history, natural history, languages upon languages. His notes mentioned none of this. He had almost stopped writing notes altogether. The window opened sometimes, and a list of books would appear, and the books would be brought, and the window would close again. And that would be all. The banker tried not to think about him. He had a business to run, a life to live, money to make and spend. He tried not to think about the bet, about the young man in the lodge, about the 15 years ticking slowly forward. But he thought about him anyway, in the quiet moments, in the evenings, when the house was still and the garden was dark, and somewhere across the grass a light burned in a small window, steady and patient, and said nothing. The years did what years do. They passed. And they took things with them as they went. The banker's fortune, which had once seemed enormous, had shrunk considerably, not all at once, but gradually, the way snow melts quietly, a little at a time, until one day you look and the ground is bare and you wonder how long it has been bare, and you cannot quite remember. It were bad investments, poor decisions, a few years of excess, a few years of misfortune. The combination had done its work. He was still a man of means. But not a wealthy man. Not anymore. And the bet? The 2 million rubles, which had seemed like nothing 15 years ago, when he was rich and careless and full of confidence, now seemed like a great deal, more than he could easily spare, more than he could comfortably give. He sat in his study in the dim lamp light, and he did the arithmetic, slowly, carefully, and the numbers did not come out well. Tomorrow, the 15 years would be complete. Tomorrow at noon, the lawyer would be free, and the banker would owe him 2 million rubles, which he did not have. He sat with this fact. The way you sit with something heavy, that you have been carrying for a while, and have only just set down and are only now feeling the full weight of. He thought about what it would mean. The debt would ruin him. He would have nothingly. He would have nothing left. He would be an old man, with nothing, in a house that was no longer his, in a life that had come undone. He thought about this for a long time, and then, slowly, a different thought began to form. A darker one. It was the kind of thought that comes in the deep hours when you are tired and frightened and not quite yourself. If the lawyer did not collect the bet, if the lawyer were not there to collect it, the banker sat very still and looked at his hands and did not finish the thought. But the thought was there, finished or not, sitting in the room with him, quiet and terrible. He was not a wicked man. He had never thought of himself as a wicked man. But fear does strange things to a person. Desperation does stranger things still. He sat for a long time, and the lamp burned lower, and the wind moved in the garden outside, and the house was very quiet, and the thought stayed, sitting there with him, patient, waiting. Near midnight, he got up. He put on his coat. He took the small key from the drawer of his desk, the key to the lodge. He held it in his hand for a moment, feeling its weight, its edges. He went out of the house, into the garden. The night was cold. A thin moon gave just enough light to see by. The grass was wet beneath his feet. The trees were dark shapes against the darker sky. He walked slowly across the garden, toward the lodge. His breath made small clouds in the cold air. His footsteps were quiet on the wet grass. He reached the door of the lodge and stood there. He could see a faint light through the window. It seemed as if the lawyer was awake, or had left a candle burning. He put the key in the lock, slowly, quietly. He turned it. The door opened without a sound. He stepped inside. The room was small and warm. A candle burned on the table, its flame very still, in the windless air. Books were everywhere, on the table, on the floor, stacked against the walls, piled beside the chair, open, closed, marked with slips of paper, worn at the edges, read and reread. There were papers covered in writing, dense and careful, lines and lines of it. In several different languages, there were notes in the margins of books, small, precise annotations, observations, questions. The room smelled of paper and candle wax, and something else, something harder to name. It was a quality of concentration, of long, patient thoughts, of time spent carefully. The lawyer was asleep in the chair. His head rested on one arm, his breathing slow and even. He looked older than the banker remembered. Of course he did. 15 years had passed, but there was something else. Something in the lines of his face, even in sleep. It was stillness. It was some kind of depth. It was the face of someone who has been somewhere, thought something, understood something, that most people never get to. The banker stood in the doorway, and looked at him, and felt the darkness drain slowly out of his heart. He could not do it. He had known perhaps that he could not. But he had needed to come here. To stand in this room, to see this man, to understand what 15 years had made of him, to be sure. He looked at the papers on the table. A letter lay on top of the pile, open, as if recently written or recently read. He picked it up carefully and moved closer to the candle and read it. The letter was addressed to the banker. It said, "Tomorrow at noon, I will be free. I will walk out of this room and the terms of our agreement will be met. But I want you to know, before I do, that I will not take the money. I will leave 5 hours before noon. I will go before the time is up. And by going early, I will break the terms of the bet myself. And you will owe me nothing. I am doing this, not for your sake, but because of what I have learned in this room. In these 15 years, I have read everything. I have thought about everything. I have understood things that I could not have understood before. Your books have taught me many languages. Your books have told me the history of the world. Your books have shown me the nature of human life, what it is, what it has been, what it tends toward. And I have come to understand that your money means nothing to me. Not because I am above it, not because I am noble or virtuous, but because I have seen what human beings have spent their centuries chasing: power, gold, comfort, beauty, and I have seen where it ends. I have read about kings and conquerors, about empires that rose and fell, about men who had everything and died like everyone else, cold and alone, wondering what it was for. I have read the wisdom of the ages, and the wisdom of the ages says that all of it is dust. Everything that human hands have built, everything that human ambition has reached for, will one day be gone, and the earth will continue, quietly, without us, without our arguments, without our bets, without our parties and our candles, and our confident opinions. I want none of your money. Your money is a thing of this world. And this world I have decided to leave behind. I am going. And I will not say where. I am going into silence, the way I have lived in silence, because silence is the only honest response to everything I have understood. I release you from the bet. Do not feel grateful. Do not feel relieved. Just let it be over, as everything is over, eventually. The banker read the letter once and then again. He stood very still by the candle for a long time. The flame burned steadily beside him. The lawyer breathed slowly in the chair. The room was warm and quiet. Outside, the night moved softly, the trees, the cold air, the thin moon, all of it continuing, gently, without drama. He set the letter back on the table, carefully, exactly as he had found it. He looked at the sleeping man one more time. He looked at the face, at the stillness in it, at the depth. He felt something. He was not sure what to call it. It was not shame exactly. It was not gratitude. It was something older than either of those things. Something quieter. It was the feeling of having looked at something true and recognized it, even if you could not hold it, even if it slipped away, the moment you reached for it. He turned and walked back to the door. He stepped out into the garden. He locked the door behind him, quietly. He walked back across the wet grass toward the house. His breath made small clouds again. In the cold air, the trees were still. The moon was where it had been. The house was dark and waiting. He went inside. He sat at his desk. He did not sleep. In the morning, before the sun had fully risen, before the house had woken, the banker went back to the garden and unlocked the door of the lodge and went inside. The candle had burned down to almost nothing. A small stub of wax, barely a flame. The lawyer was gone. The chair was empty. The table was as it had been. The papers, the books, the letter, still there. He stood in the empty room and looked around, at the evidence of 15 years, at the books lining every surface, at the careful handwriting on the pages, at the small, worn space that a human life had filled for 15 years and was now done with. He picked up the letter and folded it and put it in his pocket. He did not know why, he just did. He walked back to the house. He sat in his study. He looked at the wall, and the wall looked back. And neither of them said anything. The guards reported, later that morning, that they had seen a figure leaving through the garden gate. Just before dawn, a man moving quietly on foot, carrying nothing, going in no particular direction, just going. They had not stopped him. They had not known they were supposed to. He was never seen again. There was a brief notice in a small newspaper some weeks later about a man found wandering in a village some distance away, who would not give his name, who spoke several languages, who seemed neither distressed nor confused, just quiet, who accepted food and shelter, and then moved on, and was not seen again after that. The banker read the notice. He was not sure it was him. He was not sure it was not. He kept the letter in the drawer of his desk for many years. He did not show it to anyone. He did not speak of it. He simply kept it. The way you keep certain things, not because they are useful, not because they are beautiful, but because they remind you of something, something true, something that happened, that you were there for, that changed something small in you, quietly, without your permission. The banker grew older, as bankers do, as everyone does. His fortunes changed again, up and then down, and then settled somewhere in the middle, which is where most fortunes settle, eventually. He gave fewer parties. He spoke less confidently. He was not the same man who had made the bet that evening, all those years ago. But then, no one is the same person they were 15 years before. The question is only what you carry forward and what you set down. He thought about the lawyer sometimes, in the quiet evenings, in the hours when the house was still, and the lamp burned low, and the garden outside was dark. He thought about the room, and the books, and the letter, and the face of a man sleeping in a chair in the middle of the night, with the stillness of someone who has found something that most people spend their whole lives looking for and never find. He thought about the bet, and what it had cost, and what it had given, and whether, if he had known, back at that party, back in the noise and candlelight and laughter, whether he would have made it. He could never decide, not because the answer was complicated, but because some things you cannot know until you have lived through them. And by then, the knowing is all you have left. Outside the study window, the night was very quiet now. The wind had stilled, the trees were motionless. The garden was a dark shape beneath a dark sky. He sat in his chair, with the lamp beside him, its light small and warm, and he was an old man, thinking about a young man who had chosen silence over 2,000,000 rubles, who had walked out into the dawn, carrying nothing and gone somewhere that no one knew. He reached into the drawer and took out the letter. He did not unfold it. He just held it. The way you hold something, you have held many times, that still means something. Each time, he set it on the desk beside the lamp. He looked at it for a while, and then he looked out the window, at the dark garden, at the stillness of the night, at the faint shapes of the trees, standing patient and quiet in the cold. He thought that some questions do not have answers that you can hold in your hand. Some questions you just carry for the rest of your life, and the carrying is the answer. He leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes. The lamp burned softly beside him. The room was warm. The night outside was still. Somewhere, far away, in a direction no one knew, a man was walking or resting or sitting quietly somewhere, reading or not reading, just being in the silence that he had chosen. And the world turned slowly around him and did not ask him any questions, and he did not answer any. And that was enough. That was all he needed. The lamp in the study burned very low now. The old banker breathed slowly in his chair. The letter lay on the desk, unfolded, untouched, just paper, just words, just the quiet record of something that happened once, a long time ago, between two men, at a party, over a bet that neither of them quite understood at the time. The house was quiet, every room dark and still, the garden outside motionless, the trees patient, the cold air moving softly between the branches like a whisper, with nothing particular to say. The night deepened slowly, the way nights do, toward their own quiet ending. The lamp flame leaned slightly as if tired, and then straightened again and burned on, small and steady, small and steady, small and steady. And the room held its warmth and its quiet and its memories, gently, the way rooms do when no one is watching, when the house has gone still and the world outside has forgotten that it was ever anything other than this quiet, this dark, this soft, slow, breathing nothing. So we have come to the end of this beautiful story, hoping that you enjoyed the story and learned something gentle from it. Until we meet again, take care and stay safe.